Can you imagine a daddy that's been told that his favorite son, he has 11 sons, but he's got one that's favorite. Can you imagine how he felt and how he feels whenever he hears that his son, his favorite son, is dead? He suffers the pain, and he suffers that for 30 years. 30 years. And in his old age, he finds out that that son is alive. Just imagine the hurt that he's had, and imagine what happened to Jacob. And Jacob is the father, and the son is named Joseph. And I think, with Joseph, as he talks to his brothers later, as he meets up with them, the family has to come to Egypt because in Canaan, where they live, well, there's no food. And what they did to Joseph, those brothers, that they didn't like him because the daddy was favorite to him, and so they were jealous. So first of all, they threw him into a cistern to let him die. And then they thought, well, no, we'll sell him to these people. There were some people traveling called Ishmaelites. They sold their brother to the Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites took him to Egypt and sold him there. Well, he came out to doing real well because he was able to interpret dreams, and he interpreted a couple of dreams for the king there. They called the king in Egypt Pharaoh. He interpreted the dreams for him, and then the Pharaoh made him number 2 man because he knew just what to do. And what it was, the reason they had the food was that the Pharaoh had 2 dreams. One was about some cows that were skinny that ate the cows that were fat, and there were 7 cows and good cows and 7 bad cows, and he also had a dream about some stalks of grain. There were 7 good ones and 7 bad ones, and the 7 bad ones ate the good ones. And anyway, he had these dreams, and nobody could interpret them. So he heard that Joseph had interpreted some dreams. So he had Joseph come in, and Joseph said, yeah, what those dreams mean are that we're going to have here in Egypt 7 years of good food, of good production in the field, and 7 years of famine. And what you're going to have to do is find somebody that you can trust and put them in charge of taking those 7 good years and storing the grain. So they had grain. But the other places didn't know about this. So they ran out of food. So they ran out of food where Jacob, where the daddy and the boys lived, and they had to go to Egypt to buy food. And they didn't know that they were buying it from their brother. And the daddy is suffering all this time. And Joseph is watching him suffer and kind of getting even with him. But then finally he has had enough of it because he's beginning to suffer himself because he loves his father and he loves his brothers, and he doesn't want them to suffer. So he tells them that he is their brother. So finally, daddy hears that his son is still alive. And now Joseph is in charge of everything. So he tells his family, just come on over here. Bring what you can, but what you can't, just leave it there because you're going to have better here in Egypt than you've had anyplace else. So here come the family now. They're going to come to where Joseph is. So if you want to see how God works, Joseph says, this is God's plan. Y'all didn't really send me. It wasn't your idea. God sent me here so that I could have food for you when you were hungry. So he thinks that maybe God did that for him so that he could save their lives. Well, we're going to go now to chapter 46. And in chapter 46, if you would like to come with us, we can go through and see how this family reacts. So if you got your Bible, open it to chapter 46, and I'm going to begin reading verse 1. And it's about the people that are coming now to Egypt. And verse 1 says, Israel set out with all that was his. They just taken everything now that they can. When he arrived at Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to God of his father Isaac. Now his father, called the patriots, the patriarchs. That means the fathers of the faith of these people, and they were Abraham and Isaac and Joseph. And he stopped here to offer prayers for his father, Isaac. Verse 2 says, now, in this guy's name is Jacob, but it also got changed to Israel. And in with there are going to be some different writers that we've talked about. In this writer that's going to be from the south, he's going to be he just bounces back and forth. Sometimes God calls this person Jacob. Sometimes he calls his name Israel, because God changed his name from Jacob to Israel, and that meant that Israel, or Jacob, would be the ruler over that whole country with the 12 tribes. Verse 2 again says, then God speaking to Israel, he says, in a vision by night, and he called Jacob, Jacob. See, it's going from Israel to Jacob right there. And he answered, here I am. Now, we're going to skip from verse 2 to verse 4, and it's going to make complete sense. And here's the way it goes from verse 2. There God speaking to Israel in a vision by night called Jacob, Jacob. And he answered, here I am. And verse 4 says, I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will also bring you back here after Joseph has closed your eyes. So what happened at verse 3? The reason we skipped it is because there are different writers in this Bible, and there is an editor that wanted to make it look like one story, so he picks from different writers, and we can tell them when they start repeating the same thing, saying the same thing over. For instance, verse 3 says, then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you a great nation. He's telling him, do not be afraid to go down there. But back in chapter 45, verse 28, and if you want to write that down, you can, and just pause this and look for it, or just write it down and look later. But chapter 45, verse 28 reads, when Israel or Jacob finds out that his son's alive, and this is what he says. Enough said, Israel. He's just found out. My son Joseph is still alive. I must go see him before I die. So we already know that he's going down there. So when it says again in verse 3, then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you a great nation. He's already going down there. So this writer, whenever it's a different writer, we usually say it's from the northern part of the country. We call that E, because they use L for God. In the south, we call it J, because they have like Jehovah for God. Verse 4, we'll just go from 4 now on. Verse 4 again says, I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will also bring you back here after Joseph has closed your eyes. So, what does that mean? It means that Jacob is going to die down there, but he's going to get brought back to Canaan, which is going to be their promised land. Going to bring him back to bury him there. Verse 5, so Jacob, and you're going to hear Jacob and Israel. Verse 5, so Jacob departed from Beersheba, and Beersheba is in the south. When the southern writers write it, they use cities and places that are in the south. So Jacob departed from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel, gone to Israel now, put their father and their wives and their children on the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to transport them. So Pharaoh, was it Pharaoh or was it Jacob? It was probably some of both maybe, but it's also going to be two different writers. But they had sent wagons to bring back all of his family, because he's got a good-sized family that he's going to be bringing. So they took with them their livestock and the possessions they had acquired in the land of Canaan. So Jacob and all his descendants came to Egypt, and there's going to be a good amount of them. Now, when we get to verse 7, it's going to change to a different type of writer. It's going to be one that we call the priestly writer. And the priestly writer just writes data. We see dates or events, data. It's not got a story to it. It's just got putting out there a lot of information. And so we have this. Also, when it's priestly writer, we're going to read also the places that they go is called Padamaran. Every time every time you see that, the writer is going to be a priest that's writing this. Verse 7 says this. Here comes the data. His sons and his grandsons, his daughters and his granddaughters, all his descendants, he took with him to Egypt. And these are the names of the Israelites. These are Israelites because they're from Israel. From the Israelites. Jacob and his children come to Egypt, and here they are. First of all, and I'm not going to name all the grandsons, just the sons. He has 12 sons. There's going to be 12 tribes. His sons are going to be those 12 tribes, except for 2. One guy, or one person in his family, they do not get any land because they are priests. And one son's named Levi, and they're called Levitical priests. The people had to take care of the priests, but the priests didn't get any land, which is going to be bad when they lose out with their work because they got no land. They got nothing in the future. Verse 9, the sons of Reuben. Reuben is the first son. Now, when Jacob went up to his uncle to find a wife, his uncle's name was Laban, and he was a shyster. And Jacob saw this girl. She just caught his attention right quick. And he wanted to marry her, and her name was Rachel, and she was really pretty, and he was in love with her. So he said he would work for 7 years for Rachel. So he worked 7 years. Well, the shyster, Laban, I don't know if Jacob was drunk or what, but when he woke up the next morning, he was not with Rachel. He was with Rachel's sister, Leah. And so Jacob complained, but Laban said, well, we have a custom here. You have to marry the oldest daughter before you get the second one. So he's going to work 7 more years. So he works 14 years to get the wife that he wants. These first children are with wives that he's with his first wife that he's real not fond of because she's not the one he wanted to marry. Her name is Leah, and these are her children. The first one is Reuben, the sons of Reuben. And Reuben's the first son. Then his children, but we're not going to go through all that. Verse 10 says the sons of Simeon. That was his second son, the second son with Leah. The sons of Levi. That's the priest. He didn't get any land. And there's going to be another one that doesn't get any land, but they're still going to come out with 12, and we'll find out why. The sons of Levi. That's the third child. The sons of Judah. Judah was the fourth child. So he had, with Leah, his wife that he didn't really care for, he had Reuben, he had Simeon, he had Levi, and he had Judah. And then she stopped having children for a while. But just to keep it all together, we're going to name her next 2 children also. Verse 13 says the son of Issachar. He's not born until later, but he's the son of Leah. That's why he's in this group. And the sons of Zebulun. So she's got 6 children. Now poor Rachel, she doesn't have any children. Just like Abram's wife, Sarah, she couldn't have children until finally they had Isaac. Verse 15, the sons whom Leah bore to Jacob in Padamaran. When we have Padamaran, that place is going to be written in the priestly writer. Along with his daughter, she had one daughter also, and named her Dinah. We're going to find out that Dinah is going to play an important part. Whenever they give a list of the genealogy, it's always the son. So if a girl's name ever comes in there, she's going to play an important part. And this girl's name is Dinah, and she's going to play an important part. Then we have the sons of Gad and the sons of Asher and These two are the sons of Zilpah. Now, Zilpah was the maidservant for Leah. So they got those two together. But because Rachel is also going to have a maidservant. So now we got those. That's 8 children. Verse 19 says, the sons of Jacob's wife, Joseph and Rachel. Now, they put that in there, but Joseph is not in this group. Joseph is already there. So he's not in the group that's coming. He's already there. But he is the son of Rachel. So Rachel is his favorite wife, the favorite wife of Jacob. So these are the ones that, and Joseph is the one that has been lost for 30 years. So that's why Jacob is really hurting, or he was, because that was his favorite son. At that time, he was the only son with Rachel because she had Benjamin later. Verse 20. In the land of Egypt, Joseph became the father of Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, Joseph is the favorite son, so he's supposed to get a double portion. But if they give him a double portion, that's only going to make 11. That's 10 of the 10 brothers that he has. That's going to have land. 10 brothers. So if he gets that, there's just going to be 11. But the number 12 is a number that belongs to God, like the 12 apostles, like the 12 tribes of Israel. It means they belong to God. So we want to have 12. So what it does is, in the land of Egypt, Joseph became the father of Manasseh and Ephraim. And those two are going to get the double portion, which brings the number back up to 12. So Levi doesn't get any land, and Joseph doesn't get any land. Joseph doesn't need it. Joseph is the ruler over all of Egypt. Verse 22. These are the sons that Rachel bore to Jacob. They were Joseph and Benjamin. Verse 23. The sons of Dan. Now we've got 10 so far. We had 6 by Leah, 2 with Zilpah, and now we're going to have 2 with the maidservant of Rachel, and her name is Bilpah. And we have this, the sons of Dan and the sons of Naphtali, and these are the sons of Bilhah. Bilhah is the one that is the maidservant for Rachel. We're not going to remember all that, but, and here it says, whom Laban had given to his daughter Rachel. Remember, Laban was the crooked guy that made him work for 14 years. He was the father of Rachel. Verse 26, Jacob's people came to Egypt. His direct descendants, not counting the wives of Jacob's sons, numbered 66 persons in all. So they needed several wagons to carry all them, because it was a good distance, several hundred miles, and you could travel. A good day of travel, if you didn't have cattle, was probably 20 miles. So it took them a while to get there. Verse 27, together with Joseph's sons who were born to him in Egypt, 2 persons, all the people comprising the household of Jacob who had come to Egypt, amounted to 70 persons in all. So that's a lot of them. Verse 28, now we've given all of these details, and that's the priest. Now we're coming out of details, and we're going back to the storyteller again, and it's going to be the same storyteller that we started with. It's called Jay, or from the south. And verse 28 starts with this. Israel had sent Judah ahead to Joseph so that he might meet him in Goshen. Now, Goshen is a place that they're going to give them land, and it's really some of the best land in Egypt. So Joseph can give what he wants to, and he's given his family the best of the best. So Israel had sent Judah ahead. Judah was one of the sons, the 4th son of Leah, sent Judah ahead to Joseph so that he might meet him in Goshen and on his travel in the region to Goshen. Verse 28, Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet his father Israel in Goshen. As soon as Israel made his appearance, Joseph threw his arms around him. That's daddy grabbing his little one, or his son grabbing the daddy, and wept a long time on his shoulder. Now, we have sometimes the brothers, when they met, they wept. But if they wept, if it was with his daddy and his little brother Benjamin, they wept on his shoulder. That was for one way of saying just uncontrollably. Verse 30 goes this way. And Israel said to Joseph, I can die now. It's not like he made him a bucket list, and this took number one priority. I can die now that I have seen for myself that you are still alive. Now something again is going to happen in this next verse, 31. Joseph then said to his brothers and his father's household, I will go up and inform Pharaoh, telling him, my brothers and my father's household, whose home is in the land of Canaan, have come to me. He's going to go up and tell the Pharaoh that like the Pharaoh is going to find out for the first time. But, and you can write this down if you'd like, or you can just listen. But if you want to, you can go back and read it. That's interesting. In chapter 45, that's the one right before this one, in verse 16, Pharaoh already knows they're there. Chapter 45:16 says, the news reached Pharaoh's house that Joseph's brothers have come. So he already knows it. But it's not repeating the same thing by the same person. That makes it come from a different writer. So every time we have things that are repeated, it's going to be just about always that it's going to be one writer and another writer. And Pharaoh and his officials were pleased. So they know it. So let's look back at 31 again. Joseph then said to his brothers and his father's household, I will go up and inform Pharaoh, telling him, my brothers and my father's household, whose home is in the land of Canaan, have come to meet me. Pharaoh already knows it. But he knew it by a different writer. So it's not one writer repeating it. Verse 32. The men are shepherds. Now that's shepherds, you know what they are? They take care of sheep. If you ever watch some of these Western movies where they have cattle, they do not want sheep. Well, it's the same thing in Egypt. They can have cattle, but we don't want them to have sheep. So we read verse 32. The men are shepherds, having been owners of livestock, and they have brought with them their flocks and their herds. So they've got flocks there, but they're not going to tell them. As well as everything else they own. Verse 33 says, so when Pharaoh summons you and asks you what your occupation is, you're going to have to tell him this. You must answer, we are your servants like our ancestors have been owners of livestock. That's cattle, not sheep. Livestock from our youth until now. In order that you may stay in the region of Goshen, since all shepherds are abhorrent to the Egyptians. It's not just on those westerns that we see on TV. It's just people that have cattle just don't want sheep around. I think they think, well, it's because the sheep eat the grass so close to the ground, they die. So what they had to do is they had to let the cattle graze first and eat the grass. Then the sheep could come in and eat it closer, but they didn't eat the roots. So the grass is still there, but the sheep, if they're going to eat, they have to eat after the cattle, because the cattle can't get down there with their big fat lips to get that grass. So you have gone with me today with a man that has lost his son. He thought for good. For 30 years he had been declared dead, and he wasn't ever in that shape. He was I don't know why he never went back to his family. That was a question that I had, because he could go anywhere he wanted to. He was the second high in command in Egypt. But it worked out better. Instead of him going near, they came to him and he got to get a little bit of revenge for what they had done to him. He made them make trips. He tricked them. He had a good time with them. But now they're all back together, and he believes the reason that he was sold into Egypt as a slave was the work of God, because if it hadn't happened, his family would not get to be in Egypt, and they would probably have starved back there in Canaan. Have a beautiful day. God bless you. Peace be with you.